first. Good morning. Let me just put this here. My name is Alfredo Perez. I'm not a gamer. I actually play chess. The game that I love to play is called The Incredible Machine. I don't know if you have heard about it. It's a really like building constructions, kind of like programming, but in a different way. So that's pretty much what I like. The type of games that I play, that I always have liked, and of course Mario. Everyone loves Mario. As sensor networks. So you know that you currently hold a cell phone. There are many sensors that you have in the cell phone, like the location, the GPS sensor, gyroscopes, cameras, accelerometers, etc., etc., etc. And you can collect information that can be utilized later to do certain type of analysis. Okay. So this term is quite new. Actually, like crowdsourcing is not a new concept. It has been around for a while, but crowdsourcing is quite relatively new. Maybe like 10 or 8 years that has been the term actually exploited. So the technologies, enablers of these technologies are location and digital maps technologies, communication technologies, especially the mobile internet broadband. And if we talk about the history of this, mobile internet broadband in the States, it's really new. I mean, there was no mobile broadband 10 years ago. When I was doing my PhD, we were doing research using mobile systems, and we had to pay by the minute. And then we got time donated by Sprint to do the research that we were doing over there in Florida. So there was no mobile internet. Actually, this began to do in 2009, 2010, and it actually taken off just the past 2 years. And then the pervasive ubiquitous of devices, especially mobile phones, more recently wearables, and even more recently what we know as Internet of Things, Internet connected things. So from the crowd-sensing area, this is pretty much what has allowed the growth of the field. Location and digital maps technologies has grown, especially after 9/11. The push to have GPS on mobile phones is the Patriot Act. That's something to remember, because it is stated that every single mobile cell phone holder or subscriber had to be located within 80 meters. That was a requirement for the Patriot Act that the government asked the phone companies to have, and it was something that pushed embedding GPS on the cell phones as a way for the phone companies to, at the same time, to cover themselves with respect of the law, and not to lose a lot of money because of the modifications that they had to do in their cell tower. Like currently, they can locate you even if you have your cell phone without GPS. That can be done within what is there is technology like that. But at that time, when the government mandated to do that, they had to modify their cell tower to be able to do that. So it was kind of a lengthy process to do. So what they did was to begin pushing that so the users could pay for it instead of themselves. It's just a business, you know. In America, you're doing money. I mean, it's just the way it is, okay? All right. So crowd sensing is related to a topic that we call wireless sensor networks. The idea of sensor networks is to capture information, okay? The concept of wireless sensor network is a little bit older. It's around 1998 and 1999 that it exploited, but the actual concept is even way before. It's around 1977, 1978. DARPA paid for a proof of concept to track airplanes using this technology around 1975, 1977. It is a really, really nice story about it because the prototype, the computer was a PDP 9000 or something like that, one of those mini computers in that years. So the actual computer was on a van. So they put the computer was located in a van, and the sensors were just like microphones that were, you could throw them in a field, and that was the proof of concept. So they knew that could be done, but the technology had to wait for 30 years to further develop those concepts. There was no way to manufacture that type of technology in a very cheap way. And even in 1998, 1999, there was no way either. So the concept of wireless sensor networks is a concept that many people do research in computer networks. And, but it has its problem that still the devices are expensive for the type of applications that you may want to deploy them. Because who pays for a device that costs $100? And think about that you want to monitor people in the highway, like how far they move. You have limited communication range. These devices are battery powered because they are meant to be there for years. So who pays for that? Okay. So people began thinking, okay, we have a device which is the cell phone that everybody has. It's already connected to the internet. It's already available, meaning that many people has it. We can exploit it to collect sensor data of interest. Now, coming to the wireless sensor network thing, if you have a wireless alarm at home, you have a wireless sensor network at home. Because it's essentially a wireless sensor network that has been, the concept has been applied for, like intrusion detection. But it's that idea. So every time you think of wireless sensor network, think about your wireless alarm at home. It's that concept, okay? All right. So the sensor and sensing device. If you take any type of smartphone, it has at least these sensors. It maybe has or it has not the compass, but at least it has the accelerometer, the GPS, the camera, a microphone. Speakers are not like sensors themselves. The thing to think about here is that there are around 7.5 billion cellular lines in the world. They are not necessarily cellular phones, meaning that people use. It can be machine-to-machine type of communication type of devices, but that's the current number. And this number is expected to grow because you have the Internet of Things and many devices will be connected to the internet via cellular networks. Think about smart cards. Think about infotainment systems in cars, for example, are examples of this type of things that will have that. There are more than 4.3 billion smartphones in the world. And this figure is from November last year. There is this really nice report from Ericsson. Ericsson, they use, every single year they collect information about what is happening with the mobile world. And they always prepare, by the end of the year, they prepare a report that pretty much states what is the current status of the mobile phone technology. Roughly 3/4 of Americans, 77%, now own a smartphone. Now, if you think about this as a wireless sensor network solution, then you have zero deployment cost because the developer or the one that developed the system is not paying to have their system deployed. The hardware platform is already there. I mean, people buy their cell phones, you buy your phone system, you charge your phone, and those costs that before were associated to the person that developed the wireless sensor network, they don't exist anymore when we talk about crowd sensing with the cellular phones. You may collect data and metadata, meaning like you can collect data about, like for example, people can submit pictures or you can submit you can collect sensor data, but you can also collect a metadata, like for example, where your cell phone is currently being connected to, or the times that your cell phone is active. That gives information about whoever is deploying the network to understand patterns about consumer behavior. And this is one of the applications of this. No, you don't have no power or problems or constraints because, I mean, everyone leaves home with their cell phone charged. And since you want to be communicated, most of the people will try to have their cell phones on 24/7. I mean, if you take your calendar and you mark how many days you have your cell phone off, if it adds for 3 or 4 days, it's too much. I mean, time-wise, okay? Data access, again, we have different type of technologies that these devices can connect, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, mobile broadband, and applications are relatively easy to program. So easy that there are different tools that allows to develop applications for mobile phones at different levels, like for different age groups and with different understanding on how to use the devices to achieve certain goals. This is a typical architecture of crowd sensing systems. So you have, on this side, you have sensors. Then you have what we call first integration level devices, which means sensors that collect some type of local information, perform some type of local processing, This goes through the internet, through Wi-Fi or mobile networks, and eventually hits some type of backbone type of system at the end somewhere, okay? In the cloud. I mean, if you have an application, you don't really know where the application is being connected. For example, take your Facebook app. We don't know that we don't know if the data center that is serving your application, I mean, your data, is in North Carolina or if it is in all the way back in the West. We don't really know, okay? So we see that as a big cloud that we don't really understand what happens after the data leaves our local device. This is typically the crowd sensing cycle. There is somebody that is called a task organizer that develops some type of mobile computing sensing task. It goes through a process of task distribution, which means people download the application or the task gets distributed somehow. Then there is a part that is the data collection part, and that's where users come into the game, the participants. They call participants because they are the ones that are allowing the collection of data. Then the application or the crowd sensing system will do some type of analysis and do some type of data submission back to the second level integration, which is the cloud service. And then depending on the goals on the system, the information goes back to the task organizer, or it can be served to an external party. So things to remember, the first level integrator are the mobile or the end user devices. The second level integrator are cloud services. The external party might be anybody meaning anybody that this guy wants to release the data to, okay? That's important to where we are going now. All right, these are just applications of crowd sensing security, which means like this was a system that I helped to develop when I was at USF, which was to geolocate videos and pictures. That was like 12 years ago. So you could take, if you saw something strange, you could take pictures or video with geolocation information. Somebody will receive it, and somebody could, you know, like I don't know, call the police or do something like that. It was developed for safety in transportation. Okay. This one was one of the last things that we did over there, which was this one is a system that collects pollution data, and these are the parking lots around USF. So it was just an application. This technology is also utilized for crisis management. Like there are examples, like for example, the Haiti earthquake, or they pretty much, after the situation, they were able to set up a sensor network or a crowd sensing system using a short messaging system. And again, for the point of view of computer network, there is a reason why SMS and no other thing is because they couldn't set up voice, but they could be able to set up SMS. Usually, like SMS in GSM networks corresponds to a different bandwidth than the voice data. So the lower part of the spectrum for each user corresponds to GSM data. So it's very easy to allocate and very easy to move data. The drawback is that it's very limited, and that's because the GPRS, the way GPRS works, only allows for a certain amount of bytes to send through SMS. That's the reason why Twitter is 140 characters, because 144 characters, because it's exactly the amount of data that you can send through an SMS. So that's one of a way you can deploy this. And then the part that I want to talk about today on how this technology relates to computer games, which is Pokemon type of games, Pokemon Go type of games. I really find extremely interesting this game for some reasons, which we're going to talk about just a little bit in a few slides. Okay, let's just jump to social media. We already know, at least you make use of one social media website that is to exchange ideas, chats, images, professional. Similar as before, the enablers are internet, mobile devices, and commerce marketing. This is the growth of social media penetration in the States. So right now, around 77% of adults use at least one social media website. Okay, currently, this is data is from last year, and this is coming from the Pew Research Center. This is the percent of internet users in age group that use social networking side. So look at these two groups, millennials and Generation X. Is that the name of it? Yeah, above 80%. So if you take 10 people in that age group, 2 of them won't use social media. The rest of the people will use it. So if you compare this with the growth of mobile, they are extremely related. Very, very, very similar type of growth. And something happened here that is kind of like flickering. I'm sorry about this.
Screen is nervous.
Yeah, looks like. And this is the evolution of technology of, as I mentioned to you, like this is the evolution of the use of internet, which is, this one corresponds to the use of internet. So 88% of all Americans right now use the internet, adults, and then with respect of social media and these two, we need to pay attention of these two. This corresponds to use of social media, and this corresponds of percentage of adults in the States that own a smartphone. So again, very similar, very close to each other, okay? And again, if you think about both things, when you combine both things of having many people there sharing information and also having a ubiquitous device, you pretty much can utilize or leverage both things to collect data for certain type of purpose. I mean, from the point of view of marketing people, it's about understanding habits. For security, meaning understanding where people are so you can inform about what it's doing. And similar as we mentioned before, you can collect data, which is what people share and annotate. And metadata, which is what gets generated from the social media itself, meaning the amount of traffic that is moving, who is connected with whom, the type of flow, the type of information that is actually broadcast in the network. And then let's, this is also, I took this from last night. This is pretty much the global market against market as this year. And it's very interesting that currently, when you add tablet games and smartphone games, you have around 48% of the worldwide market in mobile games, sorry, gaming, the gaming industry. We are talking about huge numbers. I mean, even if you can get, let's say that you develop an application that can get only 10% out of the total number of active users in the world, we are talking about 200 million people playing a game. 10%. Okay, and of course, like if you understand the business model behind mobile computing, there are many ways that you can monetize out of it. So it's not necessarily that selling the game, meaning having the user to pay for the game, is the way that you are going to make money out of your game. Like for example, think about Flappy Bird. That guy was making $50,000 per day. And that was like 2 years ago. He actually got bored of making so much money that he just stopped, like releasing it. You can look for the story over there. What was their source of revenue? It was marketing. He was selling advertisement through his application. Why? Because applications in mobile computing you can think about as a channel. Okay? So it's a similar idea of a channel in the television industry, meaning like better apps, it will be more costly to an advertiser to put something there. You can think about that way. But the concept is you have to think about not as an application, you have to think about as a communication channel. Your incentive for a user to use the application, in this case, is a very sticky game, okay? But itself, what the goal for the user is to play the application. The goal for the marketer is to put a commercial message as part of the application, while the developer or the publisher is to make money out of both of them, bringing both of them together. So this is expected to grow to 50% in 3 years. So 50% out of $128.5 billion. So we're talking about $60 billion, the mobile gaming industry will worth in 3 years. Again, you don't have to develop an application that is gonna be serving 1 billion users. I mean, it will, okay? You have 10 million people, and you can put a very sticky type of game out there, and then you can get money really, really, really fast. I mean, and really, really, really easy way. I mean, I'm talking about really, really easy way, because if you think about what goes beneath the hood to have that type of technology there, and thinking about how you as a developer, you can put an idea out there, it's much cheaper to do that now than it was maybe 15 or 20 years ago. So it's a very huge market. Yes, lots of competition, but good ideas will emerge. Okay? And then let's go back and let's go to Pokemon Go and why I find this particular game interesting. When I saw this game, I didn't see it from the point of view of games. I saw it from the point of view of crowd sensing. So several aspects to analyze from this game. The first thing is mobile. The game makes huge use of location. I mean, you couldn't play this game if you didn't have access to the GPS sensor. Second thing, I don't know how popular are augmented reality AR games, but this one pretty much is very popular that particular type of game. Again, virtual world embedded into real world. The third one is crowdsourced. I mean, the way the people interact in the real world has an effect on how the game developer or how the publisher also makes the games react to the type of data that is being collected. For example, if the sensor detects, or if the system detects that a certain part of the town is a very meeting type of town, they will try to put more incentives, which is catching Pokemons or setting up, like a battle at a particular site, which is a way on how they can monetize from the application. I mean, they can set up, or advertisers can pay, like restaurants, which is something that you can read on papers actually, how they were in conversation with this company to set up a gym. So that's how they call it, a Pokemon gym in a particular restaurant, so to bring people in to play the games in the restaurant, and of course, like buy things out of it. So it's also considered an exert game, meaning that is this particular type of game that can have a positive effect in people's health because it makes you walk or run or something like that. And this is what I find interesting that I didn't see before in any type of game, which is publisher can potentially monetize from sensor data. Location data to learn patterns and sell data about its users, what, when, and how. So if you think about other type of games that were developed in the mobile industry, they were thought about only, like as I mentioned before, as a type of a marketing channel to push some type of, to sell goods or something like that. But with this particular type of game, it's not that anymore. I mean, the Pokemon Go application is always on. Even though you don't have the application yet, just like looking like crazy at the corner, the application is all the time collecting information about what you do, where you go, who do you meet. Just think about it, okay? And you, as a user, well, the incentive for you is to use the application. But that's really what the publisher wants. They want you to keep that application open all the time because their way to monetize, one of the ways to monetize about it, is about selling this type of information. Okay? So again, maybe you were not aware of this, but this is how mobile works right now. You try to push things now into the users as to be able to collect sensor data that can be used for marketing purposes. And it's a gold mine. I heard about something about like the information of a user, because there are companies that now focalize on doing this type of business. In New York, there are a few of them. I believe they make around $1.5 per user data that can be sold in the internet. So it's have 10 million users, there you go, you have your first $10 million, okay? So again, we don't think about this dimension when we download any type of application. But especially in games, it's because there is this incentive of having the people to play your game, but on the other side, to be able to monetize from the sensor data being collected. Now, this is just some information that I found. This is from this year. It's a journal called Serious Games. I found this interesting that 68% of the people that they interviewed were playing the game out of curiosity. And then you can see the numbers here. What I find interesting is that after 41% they stick to the game only to finish playing the game. So it was not any preconception, but only to be engaged just because they had to. Their incentive was, I need to finish this, meaning they stick to playing the game. And there is a significant differences between current and active to say they really will stick. Again, I mean, you may think, well, 41% is not a lot, but when you multiply that by the possible total number of users, then is when you see what we're talking about here. Again, 5%, 10%, 15% out of the total number of cellular phone users in the world is a huge number. I mean, we're talking about in the millions mark here. And to have a system that can engage in the millions mark here is something that is valuable for many people. All right, and these are the questions that maybe we can talk about here as a group, as a panel, which is the mobile services and mobile industry is a space that rapidly changes. There are new technology enablers, meaning mobile virtual reality. I mean, you can buy right now one of these spectacles, snap your phone in there, and pretty much you can play any type of game anywhere. It's not this anymore where you have to go home to only play a 3D game or something like that. That's something that with the current technology that we have, it can be done. Second, new type of games. We have seen this thing of having real world into virtual reality into the real world, meaning like augmented reality. But how the opposite? Having in the virtual world embed things or elements of the real world. And again, I'm talking about this type of virtual reality things where people are, no matter where they are playing, and somehow you are not augmenting people's real reality, I'll call it like that, because it's virtual. It's virtual, okay? It's already virtual. New ways to exploit social networks in the games, new ways to exploit mobile sensors, and how about security and privacy. So there are sometimes reports about the utilization of Pokemon Go that people have been robbed and mobbed while playing the game. And this is a problem. I mean, in the crowd sensing research, there is a topic that nobody has touched. Because usually, like in my research area, you see this field still as a field that you see it from the theoretical perspective, and you don't see the practical aspects of it, which is this idea of getting people moved to a certain place, and what are the security, the physical aspects of it. I mean, we don't think about what are the physical consequences of what we do as computer scientists. Usually you don't do it, unless you are like in the airplane industry where you know that a failure can be extremely catastrophic. But usually you as a computer scientist, at least that was one of the reasons why I choose to do computer science and not to become a physician. I don't have to see people die on my hands. So I didn't want to have that on me. So screw it. I don't like that. I will stick to computer science. Now I can kill them virtually. I'm just kidding. But you get the idea. I mean, there is this dimension that we never have seen, and it's a real factual thing. I mean, you can just look in the internet. There are cases where people have been stabbed, they have been mocked because they go to a park or an isolated place where, boom, there you go. There were people just waiting to take advantage of people playing the game. Others have been involved in accidents because, you know, like you are embedding this virtual world into the real world, and sometimes, well, we are humans. We sometimes, where things are so high fidelity, you don't really distinguish what is, I don't want to use the word fake, but you don't distinguish what is real and what is not real. The second is about privacy. So this one is security. The second one is privacy. What type of data will publishers collect about their users, and what will we do with it? So you as a user, are you willing to sell your data, or are you willing to give up your privacy because you want to play a game? Maybe yes, maybe no. But it just like this. So.
No, get him. Oh.
Sorry, it's my father calling. So that's pretty much is the presentation. Again, this is supposed to be a panel, so we have Ethan and Anthony, and they are much well versed than I for games. I'm looking at here from the view of the mobile computing, mobile sensing research area, and not from the gaming perspective. I'm only looking at one particular type of game. So come on here. So we can talk about this. So let me just go here. Let me stick to this part, this last slide, which are the questions. So all right. So the first question for you guys, again, you are better versed in the gaming industry than I am. I'm pretty sure that you guys are as well. So as I mentioned, you just play chess. To tell you the truth, I spend most of my time with my free time just playing chess. I just love the game. So what do you think about mobile? Virtual reality, and you know how it can be adapted to in the mobile world.
Do you want to go first or should I?
You go ahead first.
All right. So for virtual reality in particular, I think that it has the potential to be really involved in the future of technology, because as these advances in like the smartphones and like, you know, the Apple Watch, like that's a niche thing right now, but so is the smartphone a couple of years ago. Now look at it. But you know, like the more that technology advances, the more virtual reality could be implemented into those things. So it really is limited just to our technology right now and what the developers can do with it. So I think it's going to play a major role.
I was going to agree with you on that, because anything with VR and AR depends on what we have to work with. If I don't have anything I can work with, then how am I going to advance? Because I need to, as you said, it just limits. Yes.
Can you elaborate what you mean by what you have to work with?
If I don't have the latest that I can work with, like if I have only
Latest hardware?
hardware.
Okay.
Like I personally only have an iPhone 5. I don't have whatever an iPhone 7 can handle. So
Okay.
I can't develop on what possibly my limits could be.
So basically, you're saying that the current cost of the technology is expensive for a developer to massify something. That's basically the idea.
Right, like for like mobile games in particular, it's kind of hard because virtual reality, it's kind of making its way more into consoles and PCs things, because you have things like the VR headsets and everything.
We also
And
see this with the Vive.
yeah, and you do have some of that in mobiles, because you have like the Samsung VR headset that you put your phone into it, and you can like do all sorts of things, like look around at different places in the world and everything. And it's very cool, but you just don't have a lot of that technology that's commonplace. Like that VR headset costs like $500 or something like that. It's ridiculously expensive. But other than that, it's just a matter of time, really, in my opinion.
Sir.
So,
You could also, I mean, I'm trying to think of it as how console games were years ago when we were talking about like the NES, we were talking about like 8-bit, you know, really low graphical interfaces, and then applying that to how smartphones are upgrading and updating. But there's a lot of word going around saying that they have a lot better capabilities for the smartphone than they're actually willing to go for, because they want to keep on a 2-year update cycle.
Right.
Like say iPhone wants to come out with a new iPhone, they want you to buy the new iPhone.
Right.
As a marketing perspective, they're only going to give you so much until, you know.
Right. Well, that's just good business in their mind, because as an actual like company in that regard, like Apple or Sony in that regard, or any company that produces mobile devices, they have to have something like that. If they took their best technology and put it all into one device, it could be several years before they could come out with another one. And that's really not what they want. They want people to be buying their devices year after year after year, because
You keep the people coming, they get more money, they can produce more.
so that's really the reasoning behind it. They do have better technology, but they don't want to release it at this point because it's better from a business perspective. Which, while it does kind of suck, it's also understandable, because if you work there and you were the CEO of Apple at this point, what would you do at this point? Would you put everything into one phone and just give it to the people, or would you slowly dole it out to them, paying the same price for the same phone over and over again? So that's generally just how I see it.
All right, yes.
Sorry. But doesn't that hurt the mobile gaming industry and like slow that down way
Right.
faster than, you know, like say the consoles haven't really been doing that as much.
Right.
But mobile devices have been, so that's why they've kind of fallen behind in
Well-
console, PC.
Well,
You want to go?
yeah, I mean, from their perspective, as long as consumers keep coming, they don't care. I mean,
Well,
I was
it all-
gonna say that they could care less about you. They just want you to come back and keep spending your money to get the next big thing.
Well, another point would be the. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
You had a
So
question.
within the mobile gaming community, especially within the realm of augmented and virtual reality, what impact do you see the advent of 4K technology having? For example, your PS3s and your 360s kind of got pushed to the wayside when 1080p and HD technology became a lot more prevalent, became more and more popular to have an Xbox One, a PS4, etc., etc. Nobody buys DVD anymore because of Blu-ray, is what I'm getting at. How do you see this impacting, how do you see 4K impacting the mobile market, especially as it pertains to virtual reality and augmented reality?
So to continue on about phasing out, you're saying phasing out the old, bringing in the new.
Yes, I'm saying with, seeing as how 4K is catching on and becoming more and more popular, how do you foresee this impacting the mobile market?
well, the way I see it is when you have devices that can run 4K or something like that, you're thinking about high-end devices. You're thinking about devices that at least cost $400 or $500. And those 4.7 billions that we saw over there, how many people can afford that in the world? So maybe you can have people in Korea, people in Japan, in Europe, and well, here in the States. So, and then you take those numbers, you're talking about maybe 500 or 600 million users out of the 4.7 billion people that use or number of smartphones out there. So if you're thinking about developing a 4K type of game, you really have to see your market. Meaning, what is the potential number of users that right now can play that game in that particular type of resolution? I mean, you as a developer, as a publisher, you don't want to kill yourself. Meaning, like, as in the business perspective, which is what pretty much you have to think about the gaming industry the way it is, it might not be a good bet to work that right now. Remember, the whole point is about having people to stick to an app. Sticky apps are the applications that are the apps that make money in mobile. Facebook, what is the other one? Snapchat, Twitter, all these, Angry Birds, Flappy Bird, Pokemon Go. I mean, out of these three games, Pokemon Go maybe is the one that needs much more resources in order to be played. But from the mobile perspective, you want this just a sticky app. Doesn't really matter why it is. So I will say that at this point, in the current year that we are, it's a bad bet to think about a 4K game. Simply because you don't have the number of users that can support a development like that. Okay, I will wait. Maybe I will keep that as an in-house type of thing, as an iterative type of product, something to come in the next 4 years. But I won't put all my eggs on just developing a 4K game now. Yes.
One of the issues with 4K is the number of pixels per inch.
Mm-hmm.
So mobile 4K is a waste. In fact, I would challenge you to go and find a 4K TV that is smaller than 40 inch.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot find it, which means it's just too dense, for the smaller TV. So I think the smallest I've found is like 40 inch for 4K.
Well, that's a good point.
And so it's a lot. It's like, and the phones when they have the retina display, that you have enough pixels in there so that you will not be able to distinguish the pixels. So the idea with that is that when you expand and make it real big, that you will not be able to see that. But there is a limit already in the mobile, the density in there. If you go beyond what is now the retina display, it's a waste. It's not really that useful. So in terms of the mobile, I don't know how the 4K will affect, soon. Maybe the 4K recording might be different, but the playing, we're limited. I think the 4K will be more on the actual PC and consoles, which will take us away from the mobile.
Yes.
My question is about the second question, and this is an opinionated question. In your opinion, when do you think is a limit on how much data a game should collect from the user? Like, of course, we have games.
You mean this one?
Yes.
Okay.
So, like, this year on screen, like, we have Pokemon Go, and they got data Pokemon's gonna collect so where you are, where you at, when and what time, location. And like I said, companies need to leave the advertising, which might only be doing that just to play a game. And also, hackers and bad people use Pokemon Go also know where you're going to be at.
Yeah.
So when do you think there should be some sort of limit on what kind of data the game should create?
Well, the thing is like if you think about laws that relate to privacy and security, there is actually 2 laws that will really protect a user in the mobile world. The first one is the HIPAA Act, which corresponds to health identifiable information type of thing. The second is the one that regulates the banking industry. Out of that, you pretty much abide by the privacy policies of companies, which pretty much means that if you don't read that thing, they could be saying we can go to your house and kick you out, and you say yes, kick me out.
Right.
Okay, I mean, even myself. I mean, how many of you really read the privacy policies?
Who even has time to read those?
It's not internal.
I try.
They don't have time to read 70 pages.
Yeah, 1 out of 20 here. So that's pretty much the feeling everywhere. You don't really read that thing. So there is no, I mean, from the point of view of the publisher, you don't really care. It's about the user, what you care about sharing your data.
It's
With what you have to think about that dimension.
Right.
Jessica and then
Right.
Jackie.
Well, I was just gonna say that it's in their best interest to make sure that you don't read that agreement, like, ever. They will, they'll make it as long as possible, and they'll make it, even if you do read it, they'll put everything they can at the back of the page. On page 150, they'll put the agreement that says, oh yeah, you put this here, we own your house now. So that's kind of what we're getting at, is that you have to manage it as a user yourself. The laws in place, it hasn't gotten to the point, at least with gaming, that there need to be laws in effect for this. For other apps, like VPNs and everything that monitor your internet browsing, there are laws in place for those, and those are much worse in terms of selling your data. But games, at least, it hasn't gotten to that point yet. But who knows?
Well, we
Just
have
a
to
quick little thing about
Yeah.
those nice terms and services. iTunes has one that you can't use nuclear weapon. You can't make nuclear weapons with iTunes. Just to show how much we don't actually read it. Something as crazy as that
Oh, it's in there.
is in the iTunes user agreement that you can't use it to make nuclear weapons. We actually have about 3 minutes left, so a bit short time.
Oh, well, and just an observation. So before the virtual reality is imagination. And like when you read and you put yourself in where that's happening or
Right.
what's happening or whatever, or anybody, just imaginary. And I thought, that's interesting. And that's always present. But yeah, fascinating.
But now the imagination has become a reality.
Basically,
Still imagination when it's in you.
I think what is very interesting, yes, it's amazing. But there is also a danger that the people will really bring the virtual reality and believe the virtual reality
A
is
psychological
part of
aspect.
life. And there are certain people that they are the natural way to get mixed up
right.
and bring, or they watch a program and they see a character, so they believe they are that character. They watch a novela,
Yeah. Soap
a
opera.
soap opera, they go and they believe they are that character. They absorb everything.
Right.
So if they have virtual reality, they gonna bring it. That is their personality. And they go out believing they are this thing.
Well, now we're in the
That's
matrix
danger.
with that.
That's a danger.
Right.
And with this thing, I agree about this for my family, but I'm calling family reunion. We're going back to, I don't know, maybe
Well-
the Indians. Because I do believe our privacy, is more valuable. And we should not be, they should be paying us if they want information.
I'm embracing the matrix at this point.
And
Well-
no more.
Oh, they got that one
They-
figured out.
if
Well-
they pay me,
Welcome, Agent Smith. But
The future is now.
but right.
Thank
Well,
you.
anytime you get something.
Fascinating stuff.
Thank you for attending.
Thank you.